this whole situation with LaRussell, this isn't just a people are too sensitive moment. This is what happens when good intentions crash into bad articulation. And the wreckage, it hits real people. Because what was supposed to be a message about humanity ended up sounding like a cosign to evil individuals. And that's where everything went left. But here's the part we really got to sit with. There's a difference between saying something is deep and saying something that just sounds deep. And LaRussell right now, he's caught right in between that, because what he tried to say was philosophical and what people heard was offensive. So that gap, that's where the entire situation lives. So join me today and we're going to break this down a little further. What it do, fame family? What it do? It's your boy. I got fame, and I'm back again. No. I'm back again with another one. This one's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. This isn't, I'm hoping this is going to be quick, because I just want to rip the Band-Aid off, talk about what I want to talk about, and we can move on. But I also don't want to rush it. So yeah, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place.
What?
But the reality is, this is one of those conversations where we kind of have to slow it down a bit. We have to really unpack this, and there has to be honesty across the board, because this moment isn't just about LaRussell. You see, this moment, it's about the responsibility of a speaker. It's about the responsibility of the listener and the relationship between the two. See, because when that relationship breaks down, we don't get that understanding that we should get. What we really get is just noise. So let's start with the intent, LaRussell's intent, because intent matters, but also it's not everything. From everything we've seen, including the follow-up statements and defense of the statements made, LaRussell stood firm on one core idea: that all human beings come from the same source, that life itself in all its extremes reflects the range of human potential. And that's what he was trying to express. Not praise, not endorsement, but reflection. However, intent does not override impact. And in this case, the impact hit way louder than the message ever could.
I made this record and I sent it off to my engineer, and he calls me. He said, "Man, you probably shouldn't put this out." I said, "Why? What the hell happened?" He said, you talking about Epstein, there's a lot of shit going on. And I said, "Thank you for calling me. I'm finna drop this."
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That's exactly why we need it. Because everybody sit and be silent. And the goal of an artist is to express the times and say all the things that nobody else want to say or know how to say. I'm not perfect, and neither is the president. Was guiltier than a nigga hiding evidence. You can't be mad that they heated if you don't let them vent. Even the devil was heaven sent. Even Malcolm was heaven sent. Even Martin was heaven sent. Even Kanye was heaven sent. We all heaven sent. Donald too. We all heaven sent. Epstein too. We all heaven sent. Adolf too. We all heaven sent. Even you. We all heaven sent.
Now let's talk about the word that collapsed everything, and the word that kind of pissed me off, especially heaven sent. Heaven sent. That word isn't neutral. The connotation behind heaven sent, it carries weight, and the meaning behind it, it's compared to a blessing a miracle, a positive intervention. So when you attach that word to names like Adolf Hitler, Epstein, you're not making a philosophical statement anymore. You're making a value judgment. Even if you didn't mean to, that's not people being sensitive. That's language doing exactly what it's built to do. Now, let's talk responsibility, because being an artist, especially one rooted in positivity, comes with weight. You don't just get to say they misunderstood me, because if a large group of people misunderstood, that's feedback, not failure, but feedback. And especially when your message touches trauma, history, victims, spirituality, that's not the opportunity or the space to be loose with your words. That's the opportunity and space to be intentional. Let's balance it out, because the audience has a responsibility. We live in a reaction era. People don't listen to understand anymore. They listen to respond, to clip, to post, to go viral. And sometimes people want to misunderstand. Not everyone, but enough to shape the narrative. Think about that. And let's be honest, not everybody speaking on this situation here is for the truth. Some are here for attention, some for narratives, some for old industry tensions. As a matter of fact, I've seen a couple of content creators who quickly hopped on this rage train, and it was mostly due to the fact that LaRussell had made comments about Lil Wayne not even a few weeks ago. Fine, whatever. But we've seen this before in hip hop. Moments where people jump in not to build understanding, but to build momentum. Momentum for clicks, momentum for controversy, momentum for hate. And once that machine starts rolling, the original message gets buried. Here's where we check ourselves. I mean, we're quick to hold LaRussell accountable, but are we holding ourselves in that same standard? I mean, the excuses can be, well, we aren't artists. We're not comedians. We're not out in the spotlight. Okay. But are we listening fully? Are we responding thoughtfully? Are we engaging with intent? Or are we reacting emotionally? And are we calling it perspective? Because accountability, it's not one-sided, it's shared. So, if you're watching this and you're not really sure about what I'm talking about, if you're a little bit confused, let me bring you up to speed. Let me break it down real quick. LaRussell had a message, but he chose the wrong vehicle and he chose the wrong passengers. When you bring in names tied to real harm, you're not speaking in theory anymore. You're stepping into real people's pain. And if you don't handle that carefully, the message gets lost before it even gets to land. So let's talk about empathy, because this is where things get a bit blurry. See, radical empathy sounds powerful, but here's the missing piece. Empathy without justice creates confusion, because when you humanize harm without centering accountability, you create imbalance, and people feel that instantly. Now, I'll be the first to criticize LaRussell, and I don't have a problem doing that publicly, privately. I think it's important to hold our representatives, our favorite artists, our family members, our friends, and we also need to understand with context. So personally, I've been to LaRussell concerts multiple times. I've got to physically meet him, and I've seen him, kind of observed him from a distance as well. Here's the one thing about artists is that, the last thing you want is to have a perception of an artist as a fan, hearing their art, and then you meeting them in person, and then they don't live up to that image. Now, I was a bit skeptical about LaRussell before initially meeting him, before seeing him perform live the first time. But as I sat there and observed how they put together the venue, I seen this man come out to the crowd before the show, and I seen him shake every fan's hand, and he was intentionally connecting with people directly. He definitely was showing real love to the fans and the supporters. And at first I avoided even interacting with him, because I wanted to keep watching what he was doing. Was this a political act? Was it the shaking hands and kissing babies act? So I waited. And the more I observed, the more I realized that it's not performative. It's not surface level. The intent, the corniness, the positivity, the smile, and the attempt to encourage others to have that same energy, that was real. And that kind of presence, you can't fake. Can you get lost in it yourself? Can LaRussell be lost in his own positivity? Yeah, I mean, we can all get lost in whatever lifestyle that we choose to live in, but I don't think he's faking it. I think he really goes into the positive mindset with that intent. This is very intentional. This is definitely something that he himself wants to pursue, that positive mentality. So when I say this isn't about him being malicious, I'm going to stand on that. Nefarious? No. Human? Absolutely. This guy's humanly flawed. No better than I am. No better than you are. I think the part that I understood the most, but also pissed me off the most, was his response after. Because although he did explain the intent and the meaning behind his message, he still followed it up with, if you don't like it, you can suck.
This shit for me and my people and my base who resonate and connect. Everybody else can suck my dick.
And that mindset is too familiar to me. And one thing that I've noticed, not to make any excuses, but some of this is that raw Bay Area energy. Go look at your favorite content creators. They got that whole ask me if I care mentality. It's very unfiltered, authentic, but unapologetic, and that's kind of what makes him and others stand out. But it's also what makes moments like these dangerous, because authenticity without refinement can become miscommunication. That same realness that builds connection can also break clarity. Now, let's talk more about his response. Based on his final message, he doubled down on the idea of free expression, standing firm that his intentions were pure.
Everything I've had a problem with, I've curated solutions for. I walk around my neighborhood and I see some of the little homies, I'm like, man, he ain't got no bike. Let me go get him a bike, man. His shoes messing. Let me go get him some shoes. Man, when I was in high school, I didn't get no experiences to meet successful people. Let me make sure I show up to these schools so they get that experience and get to talk to me and holler and get a Q&A. I used to walk through downtown and see all the homeless. Let me buy out this restaurant to make sure they eat for a month. When they was cutting off the aid, me and my team was like, man, what can we do to assist? Let's go get some of these grocery cards and make sure people can eat. When I got $11,000 from Kyrie, I said, man, people need help with their rent and with their bills. Let me go make sure I do something about it. I'm not the nigga in the comments bashing and talking negative and being outraged and righteous and then go back to sit on the couch. The nigga so outraged, make sure you go get active. That's what this about. How you gonna use your life? Go get active. Your homie a pimp. Go get active. Don't just get active in the comments, nigga. That's what this about. How you gonna use your life? You can go this way, you can go that way. But how you gonna use your life? Or you just gonna watch and comment and talk about everybody else's? We all heavensent.
And even more, that the people needed to understand the deeper meaning behind what he said. And look, artists should have the freedom to express themselves, but freedom doesn't remove responsibility. Because if your audience is telling you this hurts, you don't respond by telling them they're wrong. You respond by listening. See, if you ask me, I think there's a missing factor here, which is growth. And partly, we all have a part to play in LaRussell's lack of growth, at least emotionally and mentally. I've recently related this to athletes, and I've coached athletes for many years. I used to be a football coach, and I noticed that the athletes that never lost, the ones that haven't experienced a loss, they were a lot more difficult to coach, because in their mind, they believed, I've gotten here. I've become so successful in the way that I've done things, my style, that, coach, what can you tell me that's any better than what I've done to get myself here? And partly they're right, because whatever they've been doing, whatever formula they have been using, it has now created this false sense of assuredness and of like self-security. So when you try to coach them, when you try to give them advice, it's like, look where I'm at, look where you're at. Now, the moment that they lose, that's when you can observe the true magic of growth. Because that's the moment where you're either going to adapt and grow, or you're going to just lay there and give up. Now, getting back to LaRussell, growth here is is simple, because what I see is the opportunity to acknowledge the misarticulation. I also see the opportunity to clarify the intent. And one thing that has to be done is listen without the ego, not fight, not deflect, not double down, because the moment humility enters the conversation, everything changes. Now, before we close out the video, there has been an update to this situation. Now, it appears that LaRussell has deactivated all of his social media accounts. And honestly, that might be the best move right now, because stepping away from the noise gives space for reflection, not reaction, but time to process, time to listen, time to come back with clarity instead of emotion. Now, at the end of the day, this isn't a story about someone being exposed. This isn't a story about canceling this individual. If anything, this is an opportunity to see how cancel culture has gone terribly wrong. And it's really hard to have cancel culture in these spaces of creativity, artistry, comedy. This is definitely a story about someone being human. And again, humanly flawed. No better than you, no better than me. About somebody who was trying to speak light, but missing the mark in delivery. And in that moment, we saw what happens when intention outruns articulation. Positivity outruns awareness, and authenticity outruns. But none of that erases who LaRussell has been, the community he's built, the love he's shown, the impact he's made. It shows where growth is needed, because sometimes being real also means being responsible. And if we want better conversations in hip hop, then artists and audiences alike have to meet in the middle with empathy, with accountability, and with truth. Now, one thing I didn't talk about in the video specifically was toxic positivity. And that's because this whole issue was the byproduct of getting caught up in the overly positive mentality that LaRussell was doing. And I feel like, yeah, it's a little almost an oxymoron to say that too much positivity isn't good. But the fact of the matter is that toxic positivity is a real thing. And if you don't really have a good understanding of what toxic positivity is, it is defined as the excessive forced imposition of an optimistic mindset, which dismisses or invalidates authentic, difficult emotions. So it pressures people to maintain a good vibe, causing guilt, shame, and increased anxiety. Dealing with it involves validating your own feelings, setting boundaries, and accepting that it is okay to not be okay. I'm all for positivity, just like I'm all for spirituality, whether that be religious. In my case, I practice Christianity. So I understand what it is to be too deep into something. So I always promote a healthy relationship with any type of mindset that you're trying to embrace. I think there has to be boundaries, even with mindsets, with definitely with emotion. So I really did want to just, before I ended this video, bring up toxic positivity, because it's a real thing. And I think LaRussell was hurt by that self-inflicted wound of toxic positivity. But in the process, a lot of us became hurt, offended, you name it. But these are my thoughts, Fame Family. Let me know yours in the comments below. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And as always, until next time, peace, love.